Round number 3, scheduled for 12, the IBF World Middleweight Championship. The champion in gold is Bernard Hopkins from Philadelphia. The challenger is Glen Johnson from Miami. Jamaican-born.
And Tim, in Johnson's corner, they said it's going to be tough for another round or two, and then you're going to be able to take over. I don't know whether they've scouted Hopkins and feel that he gets tired. But again, Hopkins is using a lot of energy, throwing a lot of punches.
Hopkins with wins over the likes of Ralph Moncrief, Dennis Milton, Segundo Mercado, John Jackson, Joe Lipsy. He said Glen Johnson has not been in against a lot of the big names in the middleweight division. 25-5 as an amateur, 3-time Florida Golden Glove champion.
There you go, Glenn. Put the light behind it.
Hopkins, who idolizes Marvin.
There's that uppercut, Tim.
And there's a bang to the body from Hopkins.
Again, Hopkins takes a chance when he throws that uppercut. Because when you throw that punch, you're wide open. But so far, Johnson has not taken advantage of it. It's a very dangerous punch.
2 good body shots, but one of them low, and he gets a warning from Pat Russell, does Hopkins. Hopkins, just this past May, was in court shaking himself loose from his promoter Butch Lewis over a contract dispute. And since doing so, hasn't been real active as a result of that ongoing dispute up until May.
Again, now Johnson is jabbing, but he's jabbing at the air, Tim. You have to hit something when you throw that left jab. That's what he is going to have to do to stop Hopkins. He's going to have to hit him with something. See you drag back with that jab. There it is again. Now they're yelling in the corner that he has to touch Hopkins with the jab. It's exactly what he hasn't been doing.
Under a minute to go in round number 3. Hopkins has shown every punch in the book. As you said, he's a complete fighter.
But again, there's that uppercut on the inside, Tim. That's very dangerous. Get nailed coming in with that punch, you're gone.
Johnson finally lands with the left, backing up Hopkins momentarily for the first time in the fight. And he lands a left hook lead. That shook Johnson.
Drop your punches on it, Glenn.
Hopkins has jabbed with his lead, shown a left hook lead, a right hand lead.
There's that uppercut again by Hopkins.
And it even led with that uppercut. Final seconds of round number 3.
Stop letting me get set. Come on.
Round number 4 of the scheduled 12-round middleweight championship fight for the IBF crown. The champion in gold is Bernard Hopkins. The challenger is Glen Johnson from Miami, originally from Jamaica.
And in Johnson's corner, they mentioned that he's being short on his jab. He's going to have to bury the jab. And I think that's very good advice because he has been too timid with that jab.
Pat Burns, the trainer, he lands an overhand right. Hopkins pulled away, reducing the impact, and now Hopkins fires back, lands a left to the ear. That shook Johnson. He got his balance back right away.
I think he was off balance, Tim.
Hopkins trying to pour it on here, and again, that peekaboo style.
Good left hooks to the body by Johnson, and a good right hand to the head by Hopkins. Now Johnson's becoming more aggressive.
Well, that's what his corner wanted from him, starting with his jab. His trainer, Pat Burns, saying, you know, you look like you're afraid of him. You're not getting that jab to make contact. Touch him with it. Again, Hopkins firing that right uppercut lead.
Hopkins has very accurate hands, Tim. Puts his punches together well.
Step out, one step.
Good defense.
He's been forcing the fight through the first 3 rounds. We have him up, he's up at this point in our card. Knocked down so far. Good combination by Hopkins. 2 quick hands landed.
But again, Johnson now keeps burying that left hook underneath. That could have an effect if this fight goes any distance.
2 good left hands to the body. Hopkins backs him up with a combination.
There's the jab that Hopkins is throwing. That's what Johnson should be doing. He throws that jab so he's in the front and out the back. Good stiff jab by Hopkins. That sets up everything else.
He's been getting on first with all of his punches. Under a minute to go in round 4.
Underneath, Glen. Get underneath. Start the hook. Set the hook, Glen. Let it go. Don't let it short. Let it go.
Johnson has not led the pace in the fight at any point so far. He's been waiting to counter with a right-hand lead. Hopkins over the top, and then he comes back with the left to the body.
Fighting with a lot of confidence, Hopkins is, Tim. A lot of confidence.
Smiling here. Looking like he's enjoying it here in the 4th round. Under 30 seconds we go.
Showing every punch in the book. Every punch in the book.
Short with those. Johnson blocking them with his gloves. The last exchange, but again, Johnson not firing back. He's backing up. Hopkins keeps the pressure on. Bernard Hopkins cheering section. His wife Jeanette on the left, his mom Shirley on the right. And they're pleased with what they've seen so far through 4 rounds, and we've given every round to the champion. Johnson just not aggressive enough, and Hopkins hasn't let up his tempo right from the opening bell.
He's in his zone, Tim. He's in his zone. Good balance, puts his punches together. Just doing everything right now. And to Johnson's credit, he's hung in there. He's going to have to land a big punch now to really get back into this fight.
You described Hopkins as the best of the champions, and the others in the WBC, Keith Holmes, an American, and William Joppy of the U.S. is the WBA champion. The less regarded WBO, Lonnie Bradley, another American.
Time out. Come over here real quick. Tight up. You over there in that neutral corner. Real quick.
A loose lace on the boot of Glen Johnson, and the referee, Pat Russell, stopping time in order for that to be tightened up so he doesn't trip on it. We're back in action here in round number 5, scheduled for 12. Hopkins just keeps the pressure on.
Johnson is punching back, Tim, but to no effect whatsoever.
He's got to force the issue at some point because he's been letting Hopkins lose the entire fight.
And you can see him holding on the inside, Johnson.
Undefeated challenger Glen Johnson, 22 KOs and 32 wins, but he has that uppercut of Hopkins.
Johnson's going to have to get off first at some time during this fight. Right now is getting to the target practice for Hopkins. Look at that snappy jab of Hopkins. That's what I call a good left jab. That's once you do that, you can feint off the jab and set up anything else.
Keep it out there, Glen.
No reaching, no reaching. This is the point, Bernard.
Under a minute remaining in round number 5.
Pump it.
Hopkins gets a warning for a low blow, but it was a good counter left to the body. He just fired it so quickly that it did wind up low, and he got a warning.
There you go. Keep it out there. Sip it.
There's a couple of stiff jabs by Johnson. That's what he's going to have to do to stay in this fight.
Where you going?
Short, sharp right by Hopkins bothered Johnson. He's backed him into the Johnson corner. Johnson into that good peekaboo defensive style here against the assault from Hopkins, but he is backing up, and there's an uppercut that wobbled him. Hopkins pours it on.
Talk about a guy being conditioned. And Hopkins is certainly spending a lot of energy, letting it all hang out.
Hopkins going all out here in the 5th, but Johnson makes it to the bell. And shakes his head at his corner like he's all right. They're both well-conditioned athletes, and Johnson